Okay, so we're gonna move on to fungus next. We covered Protista. Now we're going to cover fungi. Fungi are more closely related to animals here than plants. This cladogram, on this cladogram, this clade is closer to animals compared to plants. So that's what we're gonna cover next. Fungi, this is our last group for today, for this chapter. Next chapter is plants. Fungi, they are eukaryotes, they are heterotrophic, and they feed by decomposing other matter. So they are decomposers and heterotrophic. Most people, you guys probably know fungus as, this growing mold. This is not the fungus. This is just a fruiting body. This is the fungus. Most of the fungus is underground. This underground fungus is called hyphae. When this hyphae wants to reproduce, maybe it rains and now it's moist, now it wants to reproduce, it has the nutrients to reproduce, it's going to start growing this fruiting body. So this fruiting body is going to make spores. It only does that when it wants to reproduce. So this is not the fungus, this is the fungus. And that's called hyphae. This term is important. I might ask you what this is associated with, and you're going to have to tell me fungi. If you take off this E, hypha, as singular, and hyphae, that's plural. Okay, this is under the microscope. If you zoom in on that, this is what it looks like. And this hyphae is called mycelium. So this is important vocabulary term, fruiting body. It's made when it wants to reproduce. Mycelium is the actual fungus that's underground. And those structures of mycelium are called hyphae. So fungus is more than, what you see on the outside. Mushroom is just the fruiting body of a fungus. Underground, mycelium is the actual fungus, and it has these thread-like filaments called hyphae. So make sure you guys know fruiting body, mycelium, and hyphae. They classify fungus based on the spore type they have, the way it reproduces. Spores are microscopic and they are reproductive cells. We have all these different groups of fungi. I don't want you to memorize this. These classifications are mainly from the way they look. So this is the ancestral fungi. Then it started to adapt to different environments. And then now we have all these different groups. This zygomycota, mycota is fungus. Zygo is because it makes the spores that are called zygospores. That's where the name is coming from. Glomeromycota, they are the ones that are found underground and associated with plants. If you take this Escomycota, look at it under the microscope, you're gonna see these cup-like structures. And in those cups, it's gonna make spores. So if it makes those spores in the sacs or cup-like structures, it's called Escomycota. I think I mentioned valley fever before. Valley fever goes under Escomycota. It's a type of Escomycota. That's how you group that. Basidiomycota is gonna make these club-shaped structures. So that's where the name for Basidiomycota is coming from. This one is more similar to water molds. So I don't want you to memorize the names or the groups. I just want you to memorize that they are classifying them the way they look. So that's how they classify these fungi. I will have you guys know what dikaryotic means. So we'll go over this in a little bit. Okay, this is the fungal lifestyle. It has multicellular hyphae that are haploid or diploid. Not diploid, I want to say dikaryotic. You guys remember what karyote means? Prokaryote, karyote. So karyote means nucleus, di means two. It has two nuclei per cell. I want you to know this because this is very special. It only happens in fungi. So I want you to know what dikaryotic means, two nuclei per cell. So it has both stages. It has haploid and diploid, both stages. It has two nuclei and it has a single nuclei here. I'm not going to have you memorize this life cycle. I think it's a little bit too much for this course. But I do want you to know what dikaryotic means, what dikaryotic is. So dikaryotic is when haploid cells, they fuse together. So you have the hyphae here. This is hyphae. they fuse together. Now this cell has two nuclei. When it has two nuclei, it's called dikaryotic cell. It has two haploid nuclei. Then those nuclei fuse, now it's a diploid cell. So it's very special, that characteristic that's found in fungi. So I really want you to know this. So make sure you know what dikaryotic means. There will be a question on this. And this whole thing happens through meiosis. The fusion of nuclei happens through meiosis. Maybe think about egg and sperm. They combine through meiosis and then you have diploid. So that's what's happening here. So fungi, they decompose dead plants and animals. If it wasn't for fungi, these plants and animals will not be decomposed, and some bacteria. And they're also used in food and medicine. So penicillin uses medicine, is one example. So these are the button mushrooms you can find in the grocery stores. Now, if you don't harvest them maybe at the right time, they're gonna keep growing and they're gonna turn into these portobello mushrooms, really big mushrooms. White mushrooms is a mutation, and brown mushrooms are the ones that exist in the wild. So white mushrooms are just a mutation. This reminds me of something. So some fun stuff that you can do at home. The mushrooms, go to Amazon. So you can just, buy these from Amazon or the store, and you can put a little bit of moisture, and then you can just stick it under your sink. And you can actually take a camera. These grow very, very fast, and you can do a time-lapse video on this. And you can also eat these after. So this is fun stuff that you can do at home. I would have shown you this in the lab if we were, meeting in the lab, but if you're interested, you can order this and you can start growing your mushrooms. Next thing we have is called mycorrhizal fungi. Fungi they're very good organisms to do symbiosis. Symbiosis is when two organisms are working together. So this term mycorrhizae, they work with the plant roots. So let me show you that first. So if you have a tree and there is a fungi growing next to the tree, here. So here, if you have a tree and there's fungus growing next to it, it's most likely in a mutualistic relationship with the plant. So these fungus roots, or the fungus gives water to the plant, and in return, the plant gives them some sugars. So they are symbiosis. They're in a symbiosis, a relationship. So because they are good at giving water to plants that have fungus, they grow better compared to the ones that don't have this fungus growing next to them. So if you have your lawn and if you have, the grass growing with mycorrhizal fungi, it's gonna grow like this. Without it, it grows like this. You can just go to the store and you can just buy the spores. This is the one I use. And you can just sprinkle these spores on your grass or your tomato plants, whatever you're growing, and your plant's gonna grow better. Let me show you some more examples here. Here, this is showing plants with and without the mycorrhizal relationship or mycorrhizal fungi. So they grow better. So these mycorrhizal fungi, they help plants get water, and in return it gets sugar. It benefits both the fungus and the plant. So the plant acquires water and minerals from the fungi, and the fungi acquires sugars from the plant. This is a root cell under the microscope. This is showing this fungi growing there. This is when you zoom in on hyphae, this is what it looks like under the microscope. This is a fungal, this is a fungus that's underground. Last thing we have for this chapter is the lichens. So this is not produced lichens, these are called lichens. Lichens are fungi with green algae or some type of algae. So it's two things working together. It's the fungus and algae. So it's a relationship of fungus or algae, which is protista, fungus working with protista. If you go outside for a walk, you might see these really dark colors, yellow, orange, red, even on the concrete sometimes. So this, so you already know that algae needs water. It cannot grow without water, but if it has fungus that can get the water for it, then it can grow. So if you were to take these algae cells, these green cells apart and put them in water, it's going to keep growing. The water is probably going to turn green in a few days, but it works better with the fungus. So that's lichen. So again, definition of lichen is fungus plus some kind of algae working together. Algae is again protista that do photosynthesis. So because it needs water, it can work with the fungus. So some fungus, they can also cause disease in plants and animals. Have you guys heard about zombie ants?
Yes.
So what happens in zombie ants?
The fungus takes over the brain of the ant and it acts like a zombie and it continues to do, but it's not really living.
Yeah, so that's cordyceps here. Fungus starts to grow on the brain of the ants. It takes over the mind and the ant acts like a zombie. Another one is this mildew fungi that can grow, that can give the bats the nose syndrome. So there are some that can cause disease. Some are beneficial, some are neutral, some are parasites. And then it's powdery mildew on the plants also is a disease from a fungus. That's it for this chapter. Are there any questions so far?
I had a question, Professor, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The lichens fungi and the mycorrhizal fungi, are those specific fungi or are those just what's the word?
So lichen is when two organisms are working together. One is a fungus and the other one is algae. Mycorrhiza is when fungus is working with a plant.
And any fungi could technically